Dun, dun, dun. All right, here we are. Episode 20, the Georgie and Patty Show. I am Georgie.
I'm Patty.
And we are here today to talk about your get out of jail free card or the hidden power of honesty. Dun, dun, dun. One never knows where it's going to lead you, but always on the right path if you're being honest, I'd say. So, my quote of the day is true leadership stems from individuality that is honestly and sometimes imperfectly expressed. Leaders should strive for authenticity over perfection. And that is by Sheryl Sandberg. I think we talk about that a lot, about just be who you are, be imperfectly perfect is totally a-okay, no problem. I think we say that a lot, which is probably why this kind of resonated with me. You can pick who you are every single time over trying to be something that you're not, and it's always going to get you better results. Always, in my opinion, of course. Little side note, that's the asterisk, the fine print, in my opinion. That's where it goes. So as I was thinking about our topic today, I was thinking about, this is such a great time when we're being honest to really start to trust yourself, to really kind of tap into kind of that deep inner knowing of who you really are and what you really stand for. And I think that comes when we get really, really still, which for a lot of people right now, this is providing the opportunity with lots of time. So you could actually get really still right now and really look inside to what do you really believe? What are your values that we talk about all the time? What's your why? What's your purpose? All of those things, because I think that gives you a really clear understanding of who you are. And when you know that, when you know what your beliefs are, where your line in the sand is, what's going to work for you, I think it's easier to show up more authentic, more honest. Those decisions become a lot easier because you know. And then it's that, I think it's almost developing kind of a practice or something to be able to trust that, to trust yourself in the face of everything that's coming your way with what you should do, what you have to do, what you must do, and being able to eliminate those expectations that you're feeling from other people so that you can show up in your true self, with your true power, with your true gifts that you want to put out in the world. So those are kind of some of the thoughts that came up for me around thinking about this get out of jail free card of really being honest. And of course, because I'm such a big fan of, the why and the golden circle and your why, your how, your what, those kinds of things, because I believe when all three of those things are really aligned, when you know why you do what you do, when you know what you believe, what your values are, and then what you do as a reflection of those things, I think you show up pretty authentically. And when we start to deviate from those things, that's when we get into a little bit of like, we're not really congruent. People kind of start to feel those things. So those were kind of my thoughts when I was thinking about this topic last week and yesterday. And this morning when I was running, I was like, oh yeah, all about trusting yourself. And then how do we do that when it's easy when we're by ourselves, but then when we get all this other information coming in, the little, voice of doubt creeps in. So how do I stay in alignment? Those are my thoughts. All right. Good morning, peoples. Are you ready for slides? Let's slide on into this topic.
I need slides in order to have thoughts. I need slides to remember what I'm going to say. Let's be honest here.
Perfect.
So our topic today is honesty, which is probably it's kind of like our topic today is kale. It's one of these things where it's like this is not sexy. It's not sexy, and in fact, it's probably not the first word that comes to mind when we talk about sales and marketing. It's just that word association isn't present for a lot of people. And the reality is when you look around, for the kind of advice that we get for sales and marketing, it is often blatantly, it runs the spectrum from blatantly dishonest to kind of a little bit hidden. And it's not just Georgie that believes in this honesty thing, it's me too. And we were talking about this just before we got on the call. This is something that really resonates with our clients as well, is this desire to be authentic, which I think is self-honesty. I think those two are really so tied up together. It's like when we're honest about who we are, that's about being authentic. And that is super important to the people that we work with. Maybe not important to everybody, but to our right people, the people who resonate with us, honesty and authenticity, super, super important. And we mentioned earlier this idea of a get out of jail free card. And we'll have to wait till a later episode for Georgie to tell more stories about how she was locked up in prison.
But, jail, not prison. Jail.
I am honestly feeling really envious right now because I don't have a story about being in jail, because like as soon as I hear that, I'm like, oh, that's great. That is like such a great story to tell on stage. It's such a great story to write about, to speak about.
There's still time for you.
That's true. My criminal career is not over yet.
That's right.
So the reason we were thinking about this as a get out of jail free card, and the reason this topic came up, is that we found that we were giving clients this advice in a lot of what they would see as sticky situations. Like, how do I get out of this? I've kind of painted myself into a corner. Something's come up. I'm not sure how to proceed. And often the answer is to simply be honest. And then this is, be honest with yourself, be honest with the other person involved. When you pull out the honesty card, it might not be the easiest thing to do in that moment, but it is often the fastest, simplest, most effective solution. And it can get you out of a lot of jams. That's a big piece of what we're talking about this morning in terms of using honesty as kind of like we were talking yesterday about gadgets and magic wands. Honesty is definitely one of the tools to carry around in your magic box of tricks. And weirdly enough, we feel that perhaps a permission slip is in order here, that it's okay to be honest. We get a lot of advice that sounds a little bit like don't be honest. Fake it till you make it is the thing that comes to mind immediately. Don't disclose that. Don't say that about yourself. Don't reveal that part of your personality. Don't reveal that you've ever had problems. There's definitely a school of thought that says paint yourself as absolutely picture perfect. Never, ever, ever let people see your sweat. Never let them know that there's something that you don't know. You show up as the all-knowing, all powerful, all perfect, all the time kind of persona. And if that doesn't work for you, feel free to be honest instead. This is our agreement with that strategy in life and business. So one of the easy things that you could do with honesty is basically when you're, this goes to decision making. Is this dishonest? Oh, I'm not going to do it. Is there something about this that rubs me the wrong way? It's like, okay, is it honest? Is this thing that I'm being advised honest? If you're not feeling comfortable with the idea of fake it until you make it, where's the element of dishonesty? And can you find that element of dishonesty and you can flush it out? It's like, how could I do this differently? How could I do this? This sounds like a pretty good strategy, but I don't want to do this dishonest part. How about I just strip that out and replace that with honesty instead? Sometimes those substitutions aren't quite as difficult as they might seem. One way to do this, unhide the agenda. A lot of times, tricky kind of marketing situations kind of stem from, how do I do this thing without actually people knowing what I'm doing? How do I call somebody up because I think they'd make a good client for my business? What is how can I veil that intention? How do I call them to check in and see how they're doing? How do I make that segue into, I have this thing that I want to sell them? Um, how do we veil that? Uh, and sometimes this shows up in a really obvious kind of way, and it's terrible. I don't know why people do this, but a few years ago, I was at a networking event, and one of the people there said, "Hey, Patty, you know what? It's like I've seen you around at a few events, and I'd really like to get to know you better. Would you like to go for coffee? Uh, we can chat and get to know each other better." And I'm like, "That sounds awesome." Um, so we set up a coffee date, and I show up to the coffee shop in order to have coffee with this person to get to know each other better. And I was ambushed by a Melaleuca sales presentation. She had invited 3 other people to have coffee and get to know her better. And she'd also invited the person who recruited her into the company with a great big photocopy of a recent royalty check, to subject all of us to a presentation. Like, they didn't even, like, there was not even any friendly chit chat. It was like, okay, that's your chair, you sit there, let's pull up this presentation. Um, Not effective. Do I want to work with her? Is there any kind of trust built? Would I ever um, agree to have coffee with her again? It's like, clearly she was being advised by the person with the photocopy of the big check that this was a great way to get people in, is to lie to them about what your agenda is. Um, that you can unhide the agenda. You can be, you know what? Let's have coffee because I'm involved in this thing that's really awesome, and I think it could be awesome for you too. It's just, you can tell people what it is that you're doing. It's where we always recommend that the core of the sales and marketing system that we help our clients implement revolves around a free meeting to do an assessment, to see how that person is doing. It provides clarity, it provides a lot of value, and the idea that there can be an offer associated with that free session is not something that's hidden. It's totally upfront. It's like, this thing could be really helpful. You can get a lot of clarity. And if you're interested in working together, it's an opportunity to find out more about what I offer. It's upfront. There is no hidden agenda. So you can walk into that meeting. You don't have to worry about hiding your intention. There's a clear intention for the meeting. This is what we're doing. Um, so unhiding the agenda, telling people what you're up to, telling people why you're doing what you're doing, um, can often be very effective for marketing. Um, I do this thing because it provides a lot of value for people. It is a great way to get to know people. And when I show up in these meetings and I'm helpful, often people decide they want to hire me. That's why I'm doing this thing. It's like, I like to demonstrate that I'm helpful by doing something helpful, right? So unveiling the agenda is often just an easy way to take something that feels a little bit off and making it easy to implement. It's like, oh, if I'm honest about this, all of a sudden I don't feel weird about doing it. Laying out the expectations, being honest. I used to tell my clients, it's like, results aren't guaranteed. I guarantee nothing. It's like, I had that in one of my agreements, in bold print. It's like, I promise nothing. It's like, here's what we're going to do. This is what I can do. This is what I can guarantee. This is what I'm going to do. And this is what I can't promise. And let's just be really clear up front. This is what I expect from you. This is what you're going to need to do to make this thing work. It's like, this is what the agreement is. This is how things are going to operate. This is how much work you're going to have to put in. This is how much time you can expect. You can be totally upfront and honest about what's going on. And when you are honest and when you spell out everything, it builds more trust. People can believe what you say because you're not just sugarcoating everything, and you're not kind of subtly lying to them. You're just saying, hey, this is what it is. It's answering questions honestly, asking questions honestly, spelling out what you can do and what you can't do. It's an incredibly, when we talk about getting out of jail free, it's an incredibly liberating place to be in. Had a sales conversation a couple of weeks ago with somebody, and they had expressed some very, very, very large goals for themselves, multi-millions of dollars. And I'm like, I don't do that. I have no idea how you can build a multi-million dollar business. That is not my area of expertise. I work in this area of ordinary success, realistic results. Georgie and I help our clients get their first clients, make their first few sales. It's like, that's where we excel. That's where we work. That is the area that we play in. It might not be exciting to you with $1 million dreams, but it's super exciting to the people that we're working with who are overjoyed to get their first few clients and to start making money with their business. But that's where I'm coming from, and it's just right in that moment, I'm like, wow, this is just so freeing. It's like, no, I don't do that. I don't have any, that's not us. It's not where we play. We play here. So it can make a lot of these situations a lot easier. It's like, no, don't do that. Yes, I do that. No, I don't do that. Okay. Another get out of jail free card. I learned this when I did instructor training for teaching. Totally okay to say you don't know. You don't ever want to mislead a class. You don't want to make shit up because you're the teacher and you're expected to know everything. It's totally permissible to say, you know what, I don't know. I can get back to you on that. Let me look that up. Or better yet, how about you go look that up? It's like, but I don't know. It's perfectly acceptable. Sometimes when I'm with a client and I'm in this place where it's like, I'm not sure how to be helpful here. It's like I feel a little stuck in a session. I'll just say, you know what? I'm not sure where we're going with this. How can I be most helpful to you right now? It's just asking those questions, admitting that you don't know something. From my perspective, I mistrust people who always have an answer and always profess that they know everything. It's been my experience that a lot of times these people who know everything, those absolute know-it-alls, I can't trust anything they say because they're just making stuff up. It's like if you never not know something, it's like I'm thinking there's not a lot of self-awareness there. So I don't know. It's a perfectly valid answer to have in a certain situation, and the easy, honest, get out of jail free card. It could be, you know, uh, it's a moment of panic sometimes. Like at the front of the classroom, it's kind of a moment of panic when somebody asks you a question and you're like, oh, I'm the teacher. Where's the teacher? The teacher must have an answer. Oh, it's me. So being able to admit that you don't know is a nice, honest, get out of jail free card, and worthy of a permission slip. It's totally okay to say I don't know. I screwed up. I made a mistake. That did not work very well. Did not get the results that I expected. You can be honest with other people with this. You can also be honest with yourself. Um, it's like, wow, I'm doing this thing and it's not working. When we do assessments, is part of the reason we love assessments so much, is that they're a chance to take a look at what you're doing and to see what's working, what's not working. Is this working? It's just a really great question to ask. It's like, is this working? Am I getting the results that I want? And sometimes this requires wishing you had a do-over to make a different decision. And sometimes this comes from investing in something, investing in an idea, investing time into something that isn't paying off, investing money into something that isn't paying off. Um, and that honesty can liberate you from hanging on to something that no longer serves you. A few years ago, I invested a fair amount of money in graphic design and branding. And by the time the project was completed and I looked at this stuff, it didn't fit anymore. And I'm like, I shouldn't have spent that money. I did this too early. This stuff doesn't fit. And I never used it. I spent the money and I didn't use it because it wasn't serving. And I'm like, this hanging on to this is isn't going to be useful. I could see that if I wanted to hang on to the branding and the design that had been done, I would have to um, figure out how my business would fit with it, and I would end up making different business decisions that were not the direction I wanted to go in. Um, so it was just one of those cases where I'm like, okay, honestly, that was a big mistake. I shouldn't have done that. And I'm just going to deal with it. I'm going to let it go and I'm going to move forward. So that can be helpful too. Sometimes people hang on to stuff for a really, 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 really long time um, when it isn't working. It's that definition of insanity, continue trying the same thing and not getting results from it. So that's another place where honesty can rescue you. Um,
I
being
think
honest with
this,
yourself.
yeah, right. I was going to say, being honest with yourself is such a big, big deal. And I think it ties into exactly what you were saying, especially when we've invested in something, or we have a program that's running, or we're trying something in our business, and we know deep down inside that it's not working, and really being able to, like, look in the mirror and go, this isn't working. I need to be honest with myself that this isn't working, and when do I need to pull the plug, as opposed to, I'm going to keep this going because I'm afraid of what it might look like from the outside. I'm afraid of other people thinking I'm a failure. I'm afraid of what other people will think about me. And it's kind of that conformity thing of, oh, I'm going to go there. So really taking an honest look at what's working for you. What are your skills? What are your capabilities? What are the abilities that you have right now? Because oftentimes I think too, we can create these big plans for our business, or these programs or things that we want to do. And maybe once we launch them, we realize, ooh, that's just a little far out of reach for the skills and capabilities I have now. Maybe there's something I need to learn. Maybe there's some more training I need. Maybe I need to pull back a little bit. And it's really being really honest with ourselves, and being okay with taking that step, pulling back and going, all right, it's like we talked about yesterday. What's the kind of guide that you want to be? Where do you want to take people? Where can you take people? Where is your sweet spot? And just like with Patty and I, were like, we know where we can help people right now. Can we help you build a multi-million-dollar business? No, we don't know. But what we do know is, we can work with you and help you get your first clients and get you going and get that stuff built. But it's where, being really, really honest. And I know with us, we've had to pull the plugs on things where we're like, this ain't working. It's not how we thought it was going to go. We have to shift things. So it's really being able to be truly, truly honest with yourself. And sometimes that means we have to make decisions and do things where we think, I think the hardest part is we're more concerned with what other people will think, instead of, what's really, truly right for us. And when you do have that high honesty thing going on for you, sometimes we just have to make those hard decisions. And often when you actually say it, and when you get through it and you put it out there, it's not as bad as we think it is. But that first step is being honest with yourself, and moving away from that fake it till you make it statement that is so out there. And we bring this slide back because when I look at this, I often think that, honestly, if we really look at ourselves, we're the lion. And often we show up as the kitty because it's easier. It's easier to shrink back. It's easier to not step into who we really are and share our opinions and our beliefs and put that line in the sand and, step into our full potential and how we can truly help the world. So I really think, there's many times when in that picture there, that reflection, it's the lion is who you really are. And that's the honest you. It's just that it goes back to that conformity thing, right? We want to kind of conform to the world. So it's easier if I show up as the little kitty, be a little more timid, So what is the true reflection of yourself? Being honest there.
Yeah, being honest with our strengths as well as our
Yes,
weaknesses.
exactly.
I know for me, I tend to like I'm a problem solver, so I tend to look for problems so I can fix them. And it's just like sometimes you have to look for, hey, what's good, what's working, right? Which brings us to this. This is another drum that we pound on a lot, is that numbers don't lie. Data doesn't lie. If you want some honesty, it's like, how are things doing? And it's about looking at things as results, not as mistakes. Taking that step back perspective and saying, okay, how is this working? What's happening here? What is the truth? What are my numbers? How many people am I talking to? How many sales am I making? How much money am I bringing in? These things that I'm doing, are they paying off the way I expect them to pay off? It's getting this information, like getting honest, truthful information. We're all like data. It's great to have ideas. It's great to have a vision and a visualization and to think about what it is that you want. And then let's get the real information to back that up. And that's a big piece of what we're looking at. Like, what do customers actually say? What are they asking for? How do they describe this? Will they buy it? As evidenced by the fact that they gave you a credit card. It's like, that stuff is really honest. Like, information data is really honest, and it's awesome stuff to make decisions based on. And you could just say, okay, it works or it doesn't work, works, it doesn't work. And it can make decision making a lot easier when you know uh, some of the truth behind what it is that you're doing. Which brings me to this, which is a little bit different, but kind of a good illustration of what we've been talking about. A few years ago, I came upon this question. It was in a forum where somebody had posted the question, and they said they were asking people for advice. They're like, we live in New York, and I just heard from a college friend who I haven't seen in 20 years, and she called me up out of the blue and said, I'm coming to New York. Would it be okay if I stayed with you for a few days? I don't want her staying here. What do I tell her? And this forum erupted. And the people were basically in two camps. And one camp was coming up with excuses and reasons why they couldn't let her stay there. Tell her that you've got a bed bug infestation. Tell her that you're going to be away that week on holidays. Tell her that you're fighting with your husband and you don't want them to get in the middle of it. Tell them that you got rats. It was just like coming up with all of these really inventive lies, and attached to that, kind of absolutely incensed that this person would even ask such a question. How rude of her to ask that. How rude of her to expect that. Combined with all these crazy lies about how to get out of it. And then the other kind of camp, if you would, the other set of response was just say no. Tell her you'd rather not. Tell her it doesn't work for you. And along with it, hey, it's totally okay to ask. And when people ask, no is a valid answer. It's like, just be honest. It's like, no, we're not set up for house guests, or we don't like house guests, or whatever. Just say no. She asked the question, you say no. It's a valid response. Just be honest, kind of thing. Um, and yeah, these two sides were kind of going at it, right? Like no way, she has no right to ask, and the other one was like, oh, you can't say that. What would people think, kind of thing. And then somebody chimed in with a response based on some research or something about how we are raised, and she divided these groups into a group she called guessers and a group that she called askers. And she says in some cultures and in some families where it's about guessing. We don't ask for things outright. We hint about it. We wait for it to be offered, uh, and we kind of guess what the other person's intention is. And if that's how you grew up, then this would be familiar to you. And I'm reading this. I'm going, that's my childhood exactly. It was just like we weren't allowed to ask for things. It was rude to ask for things. And if it was my dad on the phone with somebody asking if they could come and stay in our house, he would be fumbling for an excuse, some lie about why he couldn't do it, because in addition to not being able to ask, also being able to say no outright was kind of frowned upon as well. And I'm like, wow, that was my childhood, because I understood where the guessers were coming from. It was just like, oh wow, that's kind of where I was at. And they said the other group is called, we'll call them the askers, and they were brought up with some ideas like it's okay to ask for what you want. If you don't ask, you won't get. And along with this, the ability that yes, you can say yes, you can say no, you can ask for whatever you want, and you have to be okay with accepting no for an answer. Uh, so, so this researcher woman or whatever, she's just saying this is just so fascinating, but this is exactly how it plays out. We've got askers, we got guessers, and I remember reading that and I'm going, wow, this guessing thing is really shit strategy. It's like, this is terrible. This is a lot of work. It's difficult. Uh, it's an emotional kind of a turmoil where I'm caught between, oh, I can't say no, but I don't want to say yes. Like what do I do here? And I'm like, wow, this asking honesty, you can ask and give an honest answer. What a great way to approach life. Oh, so I share that in case some of that rings uh, true for you. Is that if you happen to be like me and brought up in a home where guessing is kind of the norm, you might want to take a look at how asking and being honest can possibly uh, be something you want to try.
Yeah, and it's not often that it's not easy either, especially if these are your childhood beliefs and how you were raised. So know that when you do go to try this on, it will feel really, really uncomfortable. Like it will feel the stories you make up about this one will be massive, really, really massive, because it pulls in so much of that stuff from childhood, and these are those really ingrained things. And it's a really great opportunity to see there may be some other beliefs sitting there that you weren't even aware of. um, yeah, and then once you start doing it, there's great freedom that comes into it. And it's not comfortable, and it's definitely not the easiest thing. I was raised very much like you, Patty, and it's just like, ugh, you know even now, you come up with different things, and it's like, oh God, if do I just say that? Yes, you can. And sometimes it's easier in business as opposed to maybe personal things, or people, especially people you've had relationships for a long time and they're used to your way of being, and now suddenly it's just like, no, that's not going to work because I don't actually like people in my house. What? Oh, I thought you were just busy before. Truthfully, no, I just hate people in my house. Sometimes it doesn't land so well. um, and it's okay. There's great freedom, I think, when we are honest, and often it's not as bad as we think it's going to be. But when we're, challenging the way we were raised in those deep-seated things, it's not the easiest thing, but such a great opportunity to see some of those hidden things that could be holding you back.
You know, I was just thinking about this. I think this is probably why some people really struggle with asking for a sale in a sales conversation. And they
Ah,
would rather, and, you know, and I have had people say to me, it's like, oh, if they really wanted it, they would say, you know, they would ask me, you know, they would say that they want to buy. I shouldn't have to ask is kind of part of it too, and that's very much a guesser thing. It's like we're going to hint about this, we're going to hint that we have something for sale, and then they're going to bite and say yes, I want that. Um, but the reality is, a lot of people don't get the hint.
no.
They're waiting to be asked. They're waiting to be invited.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Such a good point. You know, and even that one you could probably talk about for an hour, realistically, because it is that there's a lot, it can be a lot of charge around that, because you look at, and I don't think, you know, the people that are coming up with the lies of why, you know, she shouldn't stay there, you know, it's not that they're bad people or anything like that. It's that it's how we're raised, and it's that belief of what will people think. You know, I'd rather you think my marriage is breaking apart than think that I just don't want you in my house, or that I don't have a second room, or whatever. You know, I'm not comfortable with you sleeping on the couch.
Yeah.
It's really, really interesting, and I find it such a, like I say, it's such a great thing to be able to look at, really, those beliefs that were instilled in childhood that we are carrying forward.
Yeah.
It's so like really, really good. Okay, we have some discussion happening in our chat.
All
There
right.
we go. Let me see. Okay. How does being clear, RE expectations, promise nothing, relate to earlier guarantee discussion?
Guarantee what you can guarantee. Like that, and that is often the pushback. It's like I can't get, like coaches will say, I can't guarantee a transformation because the person needs to show up and do um, and do the work. And it's just like, if you can't guarantee it, you can't guarantee it. This is about honesty. It's like the program that Georgie and I are running right now, we do guarantee results. You know, there needs to be a commitment on the behalf with the client, that they need to be uh, into the strategy that we are suggesting. Like, they have to buy in that, yes, this is a good strategy, and I will execute it, and I'll do it, and I'll show up, and I'll do the work. And our we've done it so many times with so many people that we're like, yeah, it works. Like, we know it works. We absolutely guarantee that it works. It's like, that's our guarantee. And we spell it out very clearly. It's like, this is how it works. This is what we expect of you. This is the guarantee that we give you. And if you can't guarantee it, think about what you can guarantee. This is just all about the honesty. Like, the absolute worst strategy you could take is to guarantee something that you have no control over and that you cannot honestly deliver. You can't stand behind that. The guarantee should make you feel rock frickin' solid about what you're doing and about what you're guaranteeing.
Exactly. How can we grow and learn if every step is perfect? This is why we need a coach to reflect back to us and help us to see that. Absolutely. If you're always doing things perfectly, where is the opportunity for growth in learning? And how
If you're
boring.
if you're always doing things perfectly, there's probably a lack of self-awareness.
Exactly. Exactly.
We see this sometimes when we do a workshop and we have people fill out an assessment in a room, right? And it's colored circles in the assessment, and it's red, yellow, or green. And we see people who could say, I have a problem with sales and marketing, I'm not getting clients, and their assessment is all green. It's like, there's no self-awareness there. There's an unwillingness to look at what's happening, because if you're not getting clients, there is something that is not working. That assessment is not all green. It's there's an element of fooling yourself.
Exactly. Let's see. People appreciate honesty. It takes guts. Yeah, it's not always the easiest thing. That's for sure.
not always the easiest thing, and also the easiest thing.
Exactly.
I sometimes surprise myself with it. It's just like, holy crap, that was easy. I just said no.
Well,
Wow, how easy was that?
and it's the story we're making up as to why that's not going to be easy. What are the people going to think? All this again, that those internal stories we're making up as opposed to just saying it. And then when you do, it's like, oh man, yeah. It doesn't work to ask when you are coming from. They won't say yes. People who would have said yes might say no because you are giving a mixed message. Words and tone don't match. Yeah, it's all about that congruency, right? Um, Showing up, making sure your intentions are pure, all of
I
those
think
kinds of
too that
things.
there's a very nice feeling of detachment that you can aspire to or practice, where it's you believe that if they are meant to be your future client, they will say yes. And if they are not meant to be your future client, then they will say no. And you're okay either way. Either they are a future client or they are not a future client. And either answer is okay. It's when we get attached to this idea that they have to say yes, or that if they don't say yes, we haven't done our job. It's absolutely 100% in this position of it is not about getting people to do what you want. It
Exactly.
is about finding the right fit. It's about getting your future, like matching up with your future clients. That's what this game is about. It's not trying to get people to do things they don't want to do.
Exactly. And sometimes that requires a bit of a shift in mindset because, again, with a lot of the things we've been told over the years, and you're looking at your closing rate and all those kinds of things. How am I converting? And that's with that kind of mentality, you're looking at, I want to sell everybody, 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 instead of, is it a fit? Can I help them? Right? Getting back into that human space with people.
Yeah, it's a totally different um, it's a totally different result to leave a sales conversation and say, crap, I totally could have helped that person, and have them not buy, and having leaving that conversation going, oh, that wasn't a fit. That no was meant to be. It's like it might be the same data, had a call, did not make a sale, but those are very different results. And we're more of the, are the people who are good future clients for you the right fit? Are they saying yes? That's something to go for. So the question is more of, it's not just limited to how did that call go, but how well am I doing at attracting the right people to me? Am I sending messages out to the world that attract the people who are meant to be future clients, or am I sending messages out to the world that's bringing in lots of people who are not a good fit? It gives you the information for where do I make the shift? Do I need to get better at those conversations? Do I need to get more clear about how I can help people? Because there are people who appear to be my future clients who are not saying yes, so there's something in that conversation that's wrong. Or is it I'm not talking to the right people? Having a lot of conversations with people who are not going to be clients. That indicates that the problem is somewhere else. So that's looking at those results, thinking about it, and being honest about what you're looking for.
Exactly. The data. When we come up with excuses, the asker will always try to get around them. I can come next week. It's so true. Yeah.
That's exactly true.
It's like, oh, dang. The guesser's just backpedaling, and the asker's like, oh, no problem. Oh, how about here? How about here?
Right, because the askers are just like, they assume that the objection is legit.
Exactly.
Like they don't know that that what they're really trying to say is no.
Yeah. So true. One thing I've learned from fundraising for various charities is that the main reason people don't give is because they were never asked. I agree with you. Ask for the sale. What have you got to lose? Exactly. Then we have a question here in the Q&A. How do you know when it's not working? How do you evaluate strategies? They do take time to implement, so you don't want to pull the plug too soon, but Exactly. Go ahead. Moving the box out of my way.
How do you know if something isn't working?
Data.
It starts with the data. Yeah, it absolutely starts with data. And there's some, it's kind of like deeper questions, and it's almost like, what part of it isn't working? What kind of a result are you expecting? A lot of times, and is the thing you're doing actually, like, how do you measure it is actually a really good question to ask. It's like, how do I measure something in a way that's valid? Um, so when you say not working to what end? So I'll give you an example because that sounded really, really vague. A lot of times, like, I'll take a look at, say, social media stuff. A lot of people post a lot of stuff on social media. Their intention, their honest intention with the stuff they're posting on social media is that they are doing this thing to get clients. And then they are measuring things like, how many times does it get liked? How many times does someone share it? It's like they're measuring this engagement factor. And they're getting the engagement because that's what they're measuring, but they're not getting clients. So it's kind of like they're doing a thing that's designed to get this result, but they're measuring it against a result it was never designed to get. I don't know if that is helpful. If it is not, poke again for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's true that there's so many things in there, and it's really knowing the clear outcome you're looking for, and then asking all those deeper questions, because often something has a lot of moving parts to it. So you've got to look at, is the whole thing not working? Is it just this piece isn't working? Where do I need to go before we just go, this is over? You know.
And from our perspective, in terms of making a business work in general, getting clients in general, if you're in this position where you do not have enough clients, you are not getting clients, you really need to focus on, like, how do you drill down into, how do I get that information more directly? More conversations with people, more asking for the sale. It's like bringing it down to that. A lot of times people are implementing strategies that are way, like, they're level 3 strategies in a level 1 business. And if you're expecting results from that without having tested it at this core level, will people buy this thing that I'm selling? And why? If you can't answer those questions, then those strategies, you can wait forever and they're probably not going to work.
Exactly. So good. Great questions. Any other thoughts, questions, comments, things you'd like to share, points of view you might have?
Places where you might be being dishonest with yourself or your business?
Yeah.
You don't have to share that. Just throw that out as a question.
Yeah,
I know for me sometimes it's like about being honest about, do I want to work with this person? Do I want to do this kind of work that I'm being offered? Do I want to offer this? Like sometimes, like once you get, I'd say this, once you get a little bit established and people start sending you referrals and or asking you sometimes you get asked to do things that aren't necessarily, like, they know, like, and trust you. So they're like, oh, could you do this other thing for me? And what about this other thing? And sometimes the honesty is like, do I really want to do that kind of work? Do I really want to work with this person? So sometimes it's those kind of questions as well.
Mm-hmm. This has been hard to know if my message or target market is off or the offer itself is off.
That's why you got to drill down to those individual conversations. That's why we always start there, because you get that test. You get the test right away. It's
exactly.
Like you're talking to an individual, you're finding out whether or not they're going to buy. And it's just like, it's right there. And when you have those conversations, and a lot of people avoid the conversations, it's when you have those conversations, you get the information. You find out who's going to buy, you find out why they're going to buy, you find out if they're going to buy and what they're going to buy. The answers are right there for the taking. But that requires talking to people.
It requires
Always.
talking to people, requires putting it out there. Exactly. And I think, and that's why we often suggest, right? It's not about investing a lot in like your branding and your this and your that, your marketing, all of those things until you have those key pieces. Because then you know who's buying what you're offering, you know what you're offering, you know where you're helping people, what people are looking for, how to speak about it in a way that resonates with those people you want to help.
Yeah.
You know,
And that's the way you test it. It's like when you're in a conversation with somebody and you say something, you can look at their face. Like, are they nodding? Are they agreeing? Are they giving it a deer in the headlights? Are they looking confused, right? Are they not getting it? Like, that's the place to test out your messaging, not on $800 a month worth of Facebook ads, right? It's test that messaging in front of a human being. And when you say something that lands and you know it lands, then you get it figured out.
but what if they are a guesser?
Sample size of 1. I am a guesser, and I'm very forthright when people ask questions.
Yeah, exactly. I would agree with that too. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's kind of, I might weasel out of saying no to somebody that's trying to sell me something. I might weasel out of that with saying I'll think about it or something like that. But in terms of like kind of general problems about, what are you, like, if I was in a sales conversation with somebody and they asked me, what are you struggling with? What's going on? Tell me a little bit about your situation. Tell me a little bit about what you're looking for. Those kind of open-ended questions that don't paint me into a corner. I'll provide information. Most people, it's been my experience that most people will. You ask them the questions and they'll spill. So if we get into tricky situations when we try and close the sale too quickly, and when we're offer people kind of like yes and no options, you don't get a lot of information from that.
I would completely agree with that too. As a guesser, yeah, it's if I get painted into that corner, or you're like, oh, do you want to buy this now, or can we follow up? I might be thinking, yeah, let's pick the follow up date, and I'm never answering my phone. I'm getting better at that, but the natural guesser tendency would be totally to do that. Like, take a void, or maybe I'll just text you later or whatever, you know what I mean? But, and that's typically if it's pushing too fast or I'm not feeling comfortable with it. And I think that's all information that the more you talk to people, the better you get at those conversations, the better you get at asking the questions, at seeing what's happening for the other person. But I would agree. I'm typically, you get the open-ended questions. I love sharing information. No problem. I'll tell you everything. Yeah, it's just that when you get that little bit of that, like, hang on a second. Can I just say no? I don't know. What if they keep talking? What if they keep pushing me? If I feel like they're going to keep pushing me, if I say no, then I'm definitely going into, yeah, I'll call you later. Never calling you again.
I think too, this is also one of those, like when we talk about having conversations to determine whether or not there's a fit, it's like for me, if somebody is really not forthcoming with information, it's an indication to me that it's not a good fit, because without the information, without the honest sharing, and without a willingness to look at things, I can't help. So that's part of, it's like, you ask those questions, and if they're not forthcoming, if they're a little, and I've had conversations with people like that. They're, I can tell they're posturing on the phone. Like, I'm asking them questions and they're putting up this fake ass facade, and it's like, yeah, whatever. It's like, yeah. I'm sorry, I can't help you. It's just like, this is not going to work. You're going to pretend that everything is fine and dandy and you're not struggling with anything. It's like, why are we on this call? But it's very, 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 very rare that I get somebody like that in a conversation. This has been our experience too. It's like, by the time somebody's willing to have a conversation with you, they're interested. they're actually interested in, for the most part, they're interested in potentially hiring you.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think it's, yeah, it, like you say, it's really, it's the few and far between, especially once you start doing this a little more, where you do get the ones that aren't giving you information, or you get the ones that are, you know, just there to learn more about what you're doing and those kinds of things, but not actually. And then you can end those conversations really quickly. They don't have to keep going.
With honesty.
Exactly. Exactly.
Like we've had that happen with a couple of people. They put out this idea of get on a call for an assessment, and they're having their assessments kind of hijacked by people who are seeing it as a networking opportunity. And you know, it's like, so tell me, you know, what inspired you to make this call, right? And it's like, then people will be like, oh, well, I thought, you know, we would share information, and I could share information about what I'm doing. You could share information about what you're doing, and you can say, well, that's not my intention behind this call. That's not why I'm doing this. You know,
Exactly.
it's like that agenda doesn't fit for me.
And
If you want to
that's
talk about your thing, we can set up another call for that. And then
exactly.
that, you know, talking about, you know, what works and what doesn't work, it's like, what am I doing to invite people like that onto this call? How am I putting this invitation out that's getting people who are trying to sell me shit instead of somebody that wants to talk to me about what I do? And it's asking
Exactly.
those questions. That's
And
the data.
that's the data. And I think that comes from, again, being really honest with yourself, taking ownership for yourself, taking, where can I be accountable to what I'm doing and what can I change? Let me look at everything I'm doing and honestly evaluate that, instead of kind of slipping into that more sort of victim mentality. Or I'm always just getting these people. The only people that come on my call are people that never want to buy from me, or they only want to sell me things. Well, drop that and then look at, what can you do? Is maybe I'm putting something out there. Maybe I need a little tweak here or there, and really being honest about, you know, how you're showing up and what needs to change. That's for sure. 10:29, last chance. Oh, wait, there might be a question that I didn't miss. Oh, I did. Oh, question. How do I prevent people from selling me using my contact form? I think some of these are bots, but some are people.
Bots is a technical fix. You may be able to do something with the contact form, but it's, I'm kind of like, this is my opinion for this text. If you're being overrun with spam and bots and stuff like that, install a technical fix. If it's a hit and miss here and there, I'm in favor of don't do anything that's going to prevent potential clients getting in touch with you. So, I mean, I've had situations of people getting like 300 spam messages a day. That's nuts. Getting, you know, 1 or 2 a week, whatever. I'm not doing something to prevent actual people from contacting me.
So something like a CAPTCHA form, perhaps?
Something like that. CAPTCHA form. They have like technology that can do that kind of thing.
One more, hang on. One a day, but it's super annoying.
Yeah, it's annoying.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm kind of like, that question is like, you got better things to be dealing with. Delete, done.
Yeah. Yeah, especially, and the reality is, you know, if some of those people get on the phone with you, they actually book a call with you, which oftentimes they won't. But again, if they do, it's a real quick conversation that this is what this is designed for.
Yeah.
So,
I've never had that happen, and my contact form sends an auto response with a link to book onto my calendar. And I've had legit sales contacts from people through the website. Can I sell you SEO? Can I sell you content? Can I sell you stuff? Like,
yeah.
they contact to try to sell me something, but they do not book onto my
them.
calendar, even though technically I invited them to with my autoresponder saying, hey, happy to hear from you. Easiest way to talk is to set up appointment on my calendar. And they don't.
Yeah.
I've never had anyone do that. So.
Exactly. I haven't either. I get lots of those emails too, but no one's ever booked an actual call.
Yeah, and there's no reason for a bot to do that.
No.
Daily doesn't support invite.
Well, maybe you got a new market there. At least with the email, it's just delete, 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 delete.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Small number, yeah, delete them. Large number, talk to like your internet service provider, your web host, something like that. Get a techie to install some kind of a techie fix to it.
Yeah, because there should be something with the porn invites actually that you can that like that whatever fence thing or whatever it is. I know I've got that on my site so that stuff doesn't come through.
Yeah.
Yeah, your techie person can handle that for sure. All right, well, here we are, the end of episode 20, all about honesty. The honest truth is it's 10:33. So
the other honest truth is that tomorrow's topic is going to be amazing. This is Georgie's insight and the logical levels of change is this is so incredibly helpful if you ever feel stuck, if you're not doing the stuff that you want to get done, if you're hampered by stuckness, procrastination, fear, you're not moving forward. This is just like a wonderful way to look at it and provide additional perspective. And when Georgie does this in our live workshop, we get a lot of people go, super handy, a really nice model for figuring out how to get yourself back into motion.
All tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes.
On that note, see you tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Woohoo!